Hi everyone, Michel here with Michel Real Estate. This is your market update for the first quarter of 2026. Now we'll be using the data that has given to us by Observatoire de l'Habitat to distinguish what will be the new trends for 2026. We'll be doing this by looking into the numbers of the third quarter, so the last numbers that we have of the fiscal year of 2025. We will discern which properties are still in demand and which properties are not selling at all. So without further ado, let's get right into the numbers and let's see where the market is heading. In order to get a good idea of what's going on, we look at the past, and the past shows us that all the sales that have been happening in the past should be around 1,000 units sold per quarter with everything that is in existence. So this is someone that has bought from a developer or has lived in an apartment that had bought from someone else and has sold it again. These are the numbers from the developers, and there's a clear distinction between them in terms of how many transactions happen per quarter. In a good functioning year like here in 2017, there are about 1,000 sales per quarter of the existing units. In total, there should be anywhere between 4,000 to 4,500 units sold. Now, when we go to 2023, we can see that this number plummets considerably. We have about 650 to 698 units sold per quarter, which is quite low, and in that year there have been only 2,681 transactions. Looking at the numbers of 2025, we have seen a steady increase over the year 2024, which results also into an increase in 2025. In total, there have been transactions of 3,500 in the existing units. Now, when we look at the developers in 2024, they only sold 790 units, and this year their number is at 926, which is still quite low and not sufficient, which means that the market is still not trusting developers to actually deliver on their units. We have seen many bankruptcies, and only strong big developers continue to build and continue to sell their units because they have strong finances. But the market, so you buyers out there, are clearly saying, hey, I do not trust this yet. I will prefer to buy existing units, therefore I know that I can live in it fairly soon. Whereas with a developer, it might happen that they go bankrupt and you do not have a property to live in. So the numbers are quite strong. We are finally moving in the right direction in the existing market sales. Now, when we look at the average price point, so let's scroll up here. So this again is the apartments. Now, this is always the case when we look at the numbers, we only see the apartments. For some reason, which I will not go in depth to, it's always the apartments that we will use as a data point. The houses are never mentioned because we don't clearly know how many square meters are involved in that unit that is being sold. Now, let's look at the numbers, especially the price per square meter here of the existing units and the price point of the square meters here in the developers' units. Now, when we look at these price points, we can see that, of course, there has been a rise in price per square meter from 2017 on towards 2025. But then, from the numbers of 2022, we see a steep drop in 2023 when the interest rates took a hike upwards, and we see that the price point then is being adjusted on the existing unit. So we go from 8,400 on average that has been sold per square meter, we drop down to 7,900, and that number keeps on going down. This means that prices are not going up as many real estate sales platforms want you to believe. It's actually going down and stabilizing for the year of 2025 with numbers around 7,600 to 7,900 per square meters, but it's still not very certain where that number will go for the future. In any case, it won't be going upwards the way we have seen in year over year from the years 2017, where we started with 4,900 per square meter, and just a couple of years later we are talking about numbers of 8,700 per square meters, which is way too high. Again, this is for the existing units. Now let's look at the developers. Now, developers have always had the newest product, so they could ask more money for it because it's more modern, it has better energy passports, and here we can clearly see that the numbers have also gone up. But as opposed to the existing units where sellers have clearly understood that, hey, this price is too high, I cannot sell my apartment, let's lower the price so that it does get sold, the developers have not taken that same strategy. So here we can see that from the years 2023 until 2024, there is not a big difference. And if we look at the years, the quarters of 2025, we can even see an increase. So we have seen here price per square meter again at 10,240. Let me highlight it for you. So here we can see it. Doesn't really work. Great. Technology is great. Anyways, 10,289 for the first quarter, going up to 10,511 per square meter. So then we start to drop off a little bit. But again, looking at the numbers that have actually sold, even though the developers are not selling their units, prices stay up there. So they are quite expensive as opposed to the existing units. So it's not surprising that people prefer to buy whatever is out there in existence as opposed to what will be built as being built right now and comes from a developer simply because the risk factor is also too high. So the numbers clearly indicate that there's a difference in what you as a buyer are willing to do on the market. So prices have come down in regards to the existing units, but have stagnated or are still rising for the developers' units. So the market has spoken. We will not continue to buy these expensive properties anymore. We want to have certainty. We do not want to buy a property that you as a developer then go bankrupt and I'm stuck with a property unfinished and starting to pay interest or the full loan amount on that property every single month and I still don't have a place to live in, which is mine. So clearly the market wants to go for the existing units and it is strong, quite strong. If we look at all the transactions that have been done as opposed to the developers, again, we are talking about 3,500 units sold for the first 3 quarters of 2025 and the developers have only sold 926. That's not enough. And they are still not learning the lesson. They are not doing any better. They continue to build and try to sell you the properties when they are finished, but that's only possible if the developer is wealthy enough or has enough financial means and investors to conclude the project, which most don't. So that's the market update. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and of course subscribe to the channel and I'll see you in the next video.